All right, guys, it's 6 o'clock Pacific time, 7 o'clock Mountain time, and here we are at, I think those of you on the East Coast, it's 9 o'clock. So what a commitment to being here. You guys, we are honored and blessed to have everybody here tonight, and we started this last year in 2025, 1 Million Women Take Control, our virtual series, because our mission is to help women take their control back, learn financial concepts, and every month this year we're going to do something that's going to hopefully be something that you can take home with you and help you to grow in knowledge on how to protect what you love. And of course, February, all the hearts, it is Valentine's, and instead of talking about buying more chocolate and growing our rears, we're going to talk about things we can do to protect what we love. So thank you guys for being here.
There are moments in history when things quietly change.
It's
Not
great.
with a big
It's great.
announcement, not with a headline, just something shifts. And we're standing in one of those moments right now. You can feel it. This isn't history on pause. This is history turning a corner. For the first time ever, money is moving on a scale we've never seen before. Trillions of dollars are changing hands, and who it's moving to matters. Because that money is moving into the hands of women. Wives, mothers, daughters, leaders, builders. Not someday, right now. And this isn't just about money. It's about responsibility. It's about influence. It's about who will make the decisions that shape the future. Money itself doesn't have values. People do. The hands that hold it decide what gets protected, what gets invested, and what gets passed on. For a long time, women have been carrying responsibility everywhere else in life, raising children and caring for aging parents, holding communities together, making things work. But when it came to money, too many have not participated in the conversation. Not because they weren't capable, but because they were too busy, too overwhelmed, or made to feel that they weren't good enough. That's starting to change. By the end of this decade, women will control most of the private wealth in this country. That's not just an interesting fact, it's a signal. It's telling us something about where leadership is headed next. And honestly, the kind of leadership the future needs is different. It listens, it teaches, it builds trust. But here's the problem. Too many women still feel talked at instead of talked with, sold to instead of included in the discussion. And when people don't understand money, a fear of scarcity creeps in. And that kind of fear is expensive. It leads to uninformed decisions, missed opportunities, and a lot of stress that never needed to be there. Education changes that. When someone finally understands how money works, things shift. Confidence replaces uncertainty, clarity replaces confusion, and responsibility turns into opportunity. When women understand money, they don't just manage it, they protect it, they grow it, they use it to improve lives. And here's what women are telling us loud and clear right now. They want guidance they can trust. They want to be part of real conversations, clear explanations, no jargon, no pressure. And that's the moment we're in. This isn't a trend, it's a calling. We've seen this happen before. Industries change when women step into leadership. Real estate changed, healthcare changed, education changed. Now it's financial services' turn. And at WealthWave, that future is already showing up. Women leading, women teaching, women building trust the right way. So here's the invitation. Consider WealthWave and build a purpose-driven career in financial education. A career where your voice matters, where integrity comes first, and where what you do actually makes a difference. There are women who will watch this and feel something stir. A sense that this is bigger than a job, bigger than a paycheck. This might be the work they were always meant to do, to be the guiding light in moments of uncertainty, the fierce protector when the world feels unsteady, the safe harbor other women turn to when everything is on the line. Because when women truly understand money, they ignite revolutions. They rewrite the stories of entire families, of generations yet to come. This isn't just a moment on the horizon. It's here, it's now, and it's burning in her heart. She holds it all. The power, the purpose, the promise of what can be. It's all in your hands.
Every time. I don't know how to get through these without crying. That is our new In Her Hands video that came out in January. And you guys, this is all starting from this beautiful woman on our screen today, Kim Schooler. She has started a movement, and it has changed my life. It has changed so many people's lives. And this How Money Works for Women, Take Control or Lose It, has done so much to just give women some power back and to know how to make their finances work for them. And when you get a hold of the book, you'll learn things about caregiving, and that's what this series is about. Kim Schooler, who has started the charge with Sharon Lechter, and we'll have her as a featured guest in one of these months coming up. But please, as we go through this, we're going to have this survey up again. Please, please, please take the survey. It's meant to just help us kind of grow and be more of what you guys are needing out in the world. And with no further ado, Kim Schooler, thanks for being here tonight, and I'm going to stop sharing so you can take the screen.
Well, welcome everyone. It is great to have you all on our very first 1 Million Women Take Control webinar in 2026. You know, it was just a really great series in 2025. We had some technical issues through the year, but everyone stuck with us and we worked through those. And this year we are working on ironing out some of the technical stuff. But there are a few things I wanted to share with you all tonight before we hear again from Brandy and some of our other amazing Wealth Wave women leaders. So, as Brandy mentioned, I co-authored How Money Works for Women, Take Control or Lose It. I'm actually an attorney by education. I have practiced law for over 30 years. A lot of that time I served as in-house counsel for the Transamerica companies in the United States, and I ended up taking over as president of one of their largest broker dealers in the United States based in Atlanta, where I'm joining from. So it's 9 o'clock my time. And I know you all are joining from coast to coast, and it's really great to have you. So I served as president of the broker dealer for several years and love that work, love traveling, love talking to people, especially women, about finances. But at home in Atlanta was my son, and I needed to stay home more with him. And so I left the corporate side and started my own business, my own law firm, and my own financial business. And what I learned working inside the corporate world, talking to women especially, was that we need more information for women. We need accessible information. And we need more women leadership in financial services. And so when I approached Sharon Lechter about this project, she was all in. Now, hopefully, many of you know Sharon Lechter. She co-wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad with Robert Kiyosaki. She was president of the Rich Dad Companies for 10 years before leaving to work with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, where she wrote Think and Grow Rich for Women, 3 Feet from Gold, Outwitting the Devil, just to name a few of her New York Times bestselling books. She consulted with 2 U.S. presidents on financial literacy matters, and she works tirelessly at the federal and state levels to introduce financial literacy laws that require personal finance to be taught in our high schools. And so it was a great project, great honor to be able to work with Sharon. And when you read the book, you know at the very beginning of the book, and let me put this full screen. At the very beginning of the book, in the introduction, Sharon talks about, where we learn about money. We didn't learn it in schools because back when I was in school, it wasn't taught. And I know that's the same for many of you. In fact, we learned about money from our parents or grandparents or, aunts and uncles, someone who was involved in raising us. In my house, we heard sayings like money doesn't grow on trees and pinch your pennies, save for a rainy day, or we can't afford it. That was my mom's favorite saying. And I always grew up with this like mystery about what can we afford? How much is enough? How much do we have? And so I grew up because of that. I grew up with the scarcity mindset. What you don't know, you kind of fear. And because my mom always told me we just don't have enough, that's what I grew up feeling around money. What Sharon and I want to do with the book, with all of the presentations that we give, is to help women through knowledge move from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. And it's real important for women because by 2030, that's just a few years, 4 years from now, we're expected to control $30 trillion of the financial assets in the US. That's 2/3 of the entire wealth in the country, which is amazing. Now, a large part of that we're inheriting from our grandparents, our parents, from our spouses, but we've also made these huge strides academically and in the workforce. We earn the majority of college and graduate degrees. We make up nearly half the workforce, and we hold more than half of the management and professional careers. But we still earn just 82 cents for every dollar earned by a man. And you all know the big reason for this is that we are caregivers. We take time away from our careers to raise our children, to maybe take care of aging parents, or maybe we've got a sick spouse or partner. And that time away from our careers can hurt our chances for promotions, for raises, for any kind of bonus or things like that in the corporate side. So when you look at annual earnings for men and women, for men, it's a little more than 61,000, and for women, it's a little more than 51,000. So you can see how that 82 cents translates into real dollars. I mean, how significant would an extra $10,000 be in your pocket today, especially if you're raising children? Now, over a 40-year career, that is more than $400,000. $400,000 less that we'll have to pay off debt, and $400,000 less that we'll have to save for retirement. So when we do retire, we'll receive just 80% of what men receive in Social Security benefits. So, what are some of the things that women can do to kind of level the playing field? Well, in the book, and what we talk to women about is let's talk about money. It's been kind of a taboo subject. We'll talk about anything and everything with our sisters and our best friends, but we don't talk about money. We typically don't talk about what worries us about money, like what it keeps us up at night, or maybe we feel like we'll never get ahead, or we're worried about outliving our money. I work with a lot of retired women who are very concerned about that. Or who will take care of me if I get sick? Or I want to create generational wealth, but I don't know where to start. And so if we started having these kinds of conversations, we will make change. I mean, think about Mothers Against Drunk Driving. In one generation, when women raised our voices on that issue, we changed a whole mindset around drinking and driving. So much so that we created a whole new industry called rideshare. Think also about all of the attention we've been able to bring to healthcare issues that matter to us, like breast cancer awareness. Because we raised our voices to that issue, we were able to raise a lot of money and a lot of attention to those issues. And so I really encourage you to have these conversations. Talk about what's important to you, what you're concerned about, especially when it comes to money. Now, the next thing we recommend everybody do is to know your own financial situation. You got to know your starting point. So, look at your pay stubs. What are you getting paid? What's being taken out for taxes or employee benefits? Check your bank statements. You may wonder at the end of each month where all the money goes. Well, if you look at your bank statement, you will find out very quickly where everything's going. And then check your insurance coverage, your homeowners, your automobile, your health insurance, your life insurance, disability, long-term care. What is covered? What are you paying in premiums? Do you have sufficient coverage? And are you paying too much for your insurance? So it's that getting that kind of information that's going to help you make very informed decisions. And then look at your retirement and investment account statements. Now, ladies, it is all available online. So you're going to have to learn your login and your password, write it down somewhere so you can check it on a regular basis. What are you contributing? Is there an employee match? Are you in line with your timeline, for retirement or whatever it is you need that money for? And are the investments in line with what you are comfortable with from a risk standpoint, but also are the investments in alignment with your values? And so you can only know that if you look at that. So please look at your retirement and investment account statements. And then last but not least, look at your loan and credit card statements. Have an understanding of what do you owe? What's the interest rate? How long is it going to take you to pay it off? What is the minimum payment? Once you've got all of that information, once you know your starting point, then let's eliminate the unnecessary. Now, a lot of my clients will say, Kim, I live paycheck to paycheck. There is nothing unnecessary in my budget. Well, let's take a look. The first place I like to look is streaming services. In my house, we've got Netflix and Hulu and Prime and Apple TV, and that doesn't even take into account music, streaming music, or gaming services. So take a look at what you're paying for and eliminate things that are overlap that you don't care about anymore. And I know it's a royal pain to call a 1-800 number or to find the unsubscribe button on the website, but it is definitely worth your time to do that, so that you can use whatever money that is, and it adds up to save for the future. And then late fees and overdraft charges. First of all, they add up. But second, what a way to hurt your credit score. One of the biggest components of your credit score is, do you pay your bills on time? And so that's a big thing that a lender looks at. So make a commitment, no more late fees. That will definitely help your credit score. Set up auto pay or alerts on your phone or in your laptop, but just make a commitment to yourself. No more late fees or overdraft charges. And then let's look at credit card debt and what can we do with that? Now, there are two philosophies about paying down your credit card debt. The first philosophy is start with a card that has the highest interest rate and start with that one and then work your way down. That's called the avalanche. The other philosophy is start with a credit card that has the lowest balance and work your way up. That's the snowball theory. I like the snowball theory because you get to see the fruits of your hard work, your labor, faster. So pay double or whatever extra you can on that low balance card, pay it off, and then take all that money and apply it to the next low balance card, and so forth until they're all paid off. Now, once they're paid off, you can use them from time to time, but make sure you pay them off within the 30-day period, so you don't end up in another interest rate trap. But don't cancel the cards because that will hurt your credit score because it will reduce the amount of available credit. The next thing we recommend, check your credit report at least annually to make sure that there isn't any inaccurate information or outdated information. If there is, you can go on each of the 3 credit reporting agency websites and you can let them know what's inaccurate or outdated, and they are required to conduct an investigation. And then last but not least, just, kind of consider whether you've got any bad financial habits. For me, one, really bad financial habit for me, if anyone who's spent any time with me knows, it's I've got a serious latte problem. I can't pass a Starbucks without getting my favorite latte. Now, when I would drive to work every day, I'd pick up my latte, and back then it was $5 a day. $5 a day, 5 days a week, 4 weeks a month. That's $100 a month I was spending in coffee. Coffee. Now, I don't want to ask any woman to give up something that brings her joy, and lattes bring me a lot of joy. So, what I do is I treat myself to one latte a month, and I sit in my car and I enjoy that latte like nobody's business. We commune with nature, and I appreciate it in a way that I took those 5 lattes a week for granted. Now, another bad financial habit I developed during COVID was online shopping because it doesn't feel like you're spending real money when you click a button. And so, what I recommend you do is be very deliberate about what you purchase. So, I drive to the store, I park my car, I find the item, I stand in line, and I pay at a cash register. And it feels like I'm spending real money in a way that clicking a button never did. And all along the way, from parking my car all the way to standing in line and paying for it, I have an opportunity to change my mind or make a less expensive decision. So try and be more thoughtful and deliberate, intentional about your shopping. Once we've done that, let's set our goals. We're starting to do the fun stuff. Now, we want you to think about your goals in terms of a time frame: short term, medium term, and long term. We're really good at the short term goals and accomplishing them, but not as good at the medium and long term goals. Buying a new house, a new car, kids' college education, daughter's wedding, retirement, all of that, write it down and put a time frame on it, and then let's make a plan. Now, unfortunately, 75% of women don't have a plan to reach their financial goals. But we know women are great planners. We are great at planning a party, planning a wedding, planning a vacation, planning a family reunion or a high school reunion, or, maybe planning a girls' night out. If we took those same creative and organizational skills that we bring to those things that we love, let's love on some money and bring some great planning to that. It's so important for women in particular because 80% of women die single, while 80% of men die married. So you may think, my hubby, my partner has that taken care of. And they may, but here's the thing: you may end up holding the bag in the end. And so the sooner you start participating in the decision making and understanding what the goals are and what you're doing as a family to accomplish those goals, the better off you'll be in the event you are left standing alone trying to make, the money decisions for the family. Because we live longer, more than 70% of nursing home residents and two-thirds of Alzheimer's patients are women. And I bring this to your attention because we all need to be better at this. We need to set the example. You may not be the one in the nursing home, and you may not, and I hope you're not the one with Alzheimer's, but your best friend will be, or your sister, or your neighbor, or your coworker. There are women you love who are going to be in this situation. And I firmly believe that if we talk about these things and we set examples for each other, we all get better at it. And then let's save and invest more money. Now, women report, in fact, men and women report, their number one financial regret is not investing more money. And there's this myth out there that you have to have a lot of money in order to invest money, but that's just not true. You can start with as little as $1 a day. In a year, it's 365. Or maybe you can save $5 a day, one latte a day. In a year, that's $1,825. Maybe you can save $10 a day, a latte and a muffin. In a year, that's $3,650. And that doesn't even take into account any investment gains. Now, so let's talk about investment earnings. I'm going to digress a little bit and just have a basic investment discussion with you. The first thing I want to talk about is the power of compound interest. So there are two kinds of interest, simple and compound. Simple interest is interest earned on your principal. Now, if you look at this example, you'll see I loaned somebody $1,500 at 9% interest over a 50-year period. That's great. But at the end of the 50 years, my $1,500 has only grown to $8,250 because interest was only being earned on that $1,500 of principal, not on principal and interest. That's what compound interest is. It's interest earned not only on principal, but on the interest as well. Same $1,500, same 9%, same 50-year time frame, but instead I'm earning interest not only on the $1,500 principal, but on the interest that grows each year. So you can see at the end of the 50 years, my $1,500 has grown to be more than $132,000. Now, the thing that I'll say about compound interest that you want to keep in mind, look at the early years, the first 10, 12 years. The graph is growing slowly. You have to be patient. Let compound interest work. You can see after the 12-year mark, it starts growing much more rapidly. And that's what happens with compound interest. But you got to be patient. The other thing that I want to talk about is the time value of money. So here's two examples, Sarah and George. Sarah starts saving when she's 22. She sets aside $4,000 a year. She does it 8 years in a row. And then when she turns 29, she stops. Maybe she's got her family or other obligations, and so she stops. That money, $32,000, grows to be $1.4 million by the time Sarah is ready to retire at age 67. Now, George, on the other hand, was a late bloomer. He didn't start saving until he was 30. Saved the same amount of money as Sarah, but he didn't do it for just 8 years. He did it for 38 years. In fact, he set aside $151,998. Over that time frame, when he retired at age 67, it grew to be 1.3 million. Now, 1.3 million is nothing to sneeze at. Good for you, George. But you can see in this example how great it is that Sarah started early. Now, starting early means you can put a smaller amount aside. So if you're in your 20s and you want to have $1 million by the time you retire, that's $113 a month. If you're in your 30s, it's $282 a month. If you're in your 40s, it's $731 a month. If you're in your 50s, it's more than $2,000 a month. Now, it's never too late to save money. Never. No matter how old you are, do not be discouraged. But I want you to see the time value of money starting as early as possible is really going to help you in the end. So maybe you're a little older, tell your children, tell your grandchildren, tell your nieces and nephews, tell the young people you care about the time value of money and the fact that their greatest asset right now is time. Now, the third concept that I want to talk to you about is the rule of 72. It's called the rule of 72 because it's always the number 72. So you take the number 72 divided by your interest rate, and that tells you how many years it takes for your money to double. So say you've got your money in the bank and you're earning 1%, 72 divided by 1 is 72. Your money sitting in the bank is going to double in 72 years. Well, let's look at a few other interest rates. Maybe you got a money market at 3%. Your money's going to double every 24 years. Maybe you've got it in a CD. You're earning 6%. Your money's going to double every 12 years. Maybe you're in the market and you're earning 9% or 12%. Your money's going to double at 9% every 8 years. Or if you're earning 12% every 6 years. And so you can see the rate of return is very important. In addition to time, the rate of return is very important. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people stick their money in the bank, and unfortunately, the banks aren't paying 1%. They're paying 0.15%. Let's do the math. 72 divided by 0.15 is 480. It will take 480 years for the money sitting in your bank account to double. Well, let's look at what happens when the rule of 72 works against you. The banks are real anxious for you to use their credit cards. The average new credit card interest rate is 22.44%. How fast is the bank's money doubling? 72 divided by 22.44 is 3.2 years. So let's get this right. My money sitting in the bank is doubling every 480 years. The bank's money through the credit card they gave me is doubling every 3.2 years. So you can see why we believe financial literacy is so important. You can see why most people don't understand and why financial institutions in general are not anxious for us to understand how this really works. But if you apply these principles to your investing, you will see a change. Now, the seventh thing we recommend you do is learn how money works. Continue your journey learning how money works, because if you don't know how money works, it will cost you. You'll pay higher premiums for insurance. You may have to use a credit card for an emergency expense. Maybe you're paying more interest on your debts because you've got a low credit score, or you're one of the 75% that's living paycheck to paycheck, and you don't know how to break that cycle. A lot of people I meet are waiting to set money aside for retirement or long-term care. Kim, when I get that raise, when my child goes off to college, when I get my tax refund. Don't wait. Remember, you can start with as little as $1 a day. Now, when we sit down and talk to people about their financial plan, we cover the 7 money milestones. These are the 7 components of a solid financial plan. Now, not some things are going to be more important, just depending on where you are in your life, in your career, with your family. But you need to include this mental checklist to make sure you've covered your bases. Now, it all starts with milestone 1, and that's financial education, which is what you're doing with us tonight. But continue your journey. Read the book if you haven't already read the book. The next milestone is around proper protection, and you're going to hear more about that tonight. The third is emergency fund. You need to have 3 to 6 months of your income set aside for those unexpected expenses. And then debt management. We talked a little bit about that earlier. Cash flow. That's understanding the money that's coming into your household and the money that's going out. If more is going out than is coming in, you've got a cash flow problem. What if we could help you increase the money coming in and decrease the money going out? The next one is the fun milestone, building wealth. This is where you get to dream about the future. What is it that you want to bring into your life? What is it that you want to create for you and your family? And then finally, the seventh money milestone is about protecting wealth. And you're going to hear more about that very important milestone as well. Now, in the book, How Money Works for Women, we kind of talk about these things, those financial concepts and the seven money milestones in a fun and interesting way through the stories of nine characters who were at different stages in their life, going through different financial challenges. From Zoe, who's dealing with student loan debt, to Maria, who's starting her own business and getting married, to Val, who's raising a special needs child, to Dana, who's trying to figure out how to save for retirement and her kids' college education at the same time, to Sarah, who escaped an abusive relationship and had to start over with her two children, to May, who's part of the sandwich generation. She's taking care of her aging father, and her adult son lives with her at the same time. So in May's chapter, we talk about long-term care and multi-generational financial planning. To Hope, who at 62 is trying to figure out divorce and Social Security. To Fatima, who at 73 finds herself a widow. She was never involved with the family's finances, but now at 73, she's got to learn it all because it all rests on her shoulders now. To our last character, Jan, who's based on a real life character. And I understand that Jan is listening in on our webinar. Jan recently celebrated her 88th birthday, but Jan's story is one of celebration and success. She followed the seven money milestones. She and her husband did. They raised their family, and her husband's passed away, but Jan's living the retirement that she always dreamed of. She's able to do the things that she wants, and she's creating generational wealth. And so I hope you all, if you have not had a chance to read the book yet, take the time to read the book and enjoy those stories and learn a little bit more about how you can use the seven money milestones and those basic financial concepts I covered and apply that to your life. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to the amazing Brandy Agnew, who's joining us from Denver, Colorado. Oh, you're muted, Brandy.
I have a sticky mute button there. Every time I hear you speak, I am so blessed because I learned something new, and I've read the book 15 times. So one of the things that we like to do when we do these events is we like to make sure that we talk about at least something that's important. Today is about protect what you love and proper protection. And I just wanted to share a story because I think it's really important as women for us to know. We think of proper protection, we might think life insurance. There's a whole bunch of things we can think about. One of the stories that I wanted you guys to hear, and it rocked my world, was about a woman who during the COVID time, she was a real estate agent, and she had a ton of money coming in. She sold so many homes, but didn't prepare for the taxes. And when she called me, asking me questions about how to do things with her finances, one of the questions was, should I cancel my insurance? And I share this story because my first thing is no, don't cancel your insurance ever. Unless you have something to replace it with, don't cancel it. And we went back and forth. We went through her budget. We did a bunch of things trying to figure out how to best take care of her. And I just said, if anything else, we'll cut corners somewhere else, but don't cancel that. You guys, her husband died 2 weeks later. She had a $300,000 tax bill. And I remember when she called me, it was unexpected that her husband was 54 years old, young. And he had something go wrong and he was gone in minutes. It wasn't even no preparation. And she called me and she said, I'm so glad that you did not let me cancel my insurance because he had $1 million policy. And so part of proper protection is making sure that you protect the people you love. When I looked back on their budget, that whole policy was maybe $70 a month for them, and it paid her $1 million. So just something to think about. And I threw in a little quote here. Tell someone you love them today, because tomorrow's not guaranteed. None of us know when our days are done. And to all my friends and family, I love you, but the ones that are in my life, I protect you. And I want you guys all to make sure that you do something like that for your family, whether they're children, your parents. There's so many different options out there. So whoever invited you today, make sure you talk to them about how can you make that happen for your family. And then I get the honor and the blessing to introduce this beautiful woman, Julie Johnson. She's a financial professional out in Oregon. She has an interest in working with women in life transitions, such as divorced and widowed. Her passion came from things that she went through, and the things that she had to overcome. And from our pain becomes purpose. And so she is here tonight to share two very real stories of what her family has been through, in ways that she has protected her family, and what she will share with you about what she learned from what she could have maybe done better back at the time. So Julie, without further ado, welcome, and thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks, Brandy. And if you could pull up my 2 slides, that would be great. I can do it if you can't, but if you can, that'd be great.
Oh, hold on, sharing. Hold on.
So hello, everyone. As Brandy said, I'm coming to you from the Pacific Northwest. And also, as she mentioned, we are not guaranteed tomorrow. And so I want to share the value of planning for when you or a loved one are gone. And even though we know we're not guaranteed tomorrow, most of us avoid thinking about this, and we deny that it will happen to us. And we deny that it might happen in our families. Of course, we want to protect our loved ones from any kind of financial hardship if something happens to us. And yet we procrastinate when it comes to actually taking that action to ensure their protection. So, at the risk of possibly depressing anyone about the inevitabilities of life and death, allow me to share 2 opposing stories of how I learned the important lesson of the value of planning, not only for myself, but for those I love and care about. My experiences show 2 opposite ends of the spectrum of planning for the inevitable. My first experience has to do with me as a mother. Now, it's been said that love is the greatest power in the universe, but that a mother's love is even greater. And I know this to be true. Years ago, I experienced the worst loss any mother could encounter. My oldest son, Jeffrey, died suddenly and tragically at the young age of 22. Prior to that, as a parent, I would not have considered the need for estate planning for a 22-year-old, and many of you might have felt the same way. But believe it or not, my son had an estate. He had a school account, investment account, and he had other accounts that exceeded the asset limit in my state, which required myself, his dad, and his younger brother, Brad, to go through the probate process after his death. This took time, it took money, and it created additional, I'll say, debilitating anguish around the loss of our beloved son. It was difficult, it was lengthy, and it was a painful experience. And I would not wish that experience on anyone. But unfortunately, it happens. My second experience has to do with me as a daughter. Shortly after the loss of Jeffrey, my mother passed away. And her marriage to my dad eliminated any need for probate or estate-related requirements. However, now my dad's situation has changed. All of his investments, properties, and other assets that he owned now could create the need for a probate process upon his death, unless we did some estate planning for him. So, my siblings and I had that important but sometimes difficult conversation with my dad about his estate. He was very open to it. In fact, he was very intentional in wanting to protect us from the time and the cost of a probate process upon his death. So he was willing to be open about all of his income, his assets, and how he wanted them to be distributed at that time. We set up his will, a revocable living trust, powers of attorney, and other estate documents. And we helped him name beneficiaries on any accounts where it was appropriate. We continued our conversations with my dad as he aged, and he lived another 14 years after my mom's passing. Sadly, we lost him recently. He was 99 years, 9 months, and 15 days old, just shy of his 100th birthday. We are grateful that there is no need for a lengthy, costly probate process, and that we can merely enjoy sharing our memories of him instead. So there's great value in doing this kind of preparation in order to protect your loved ones. From what I experienced upon my son's death and what we would have experienced upon my father's death had we not prepared for it through proper estate planning. So here on the next slide are a few things you can do right now to start preparing your loved ones in this way. So for your own planning, put some life insurance in place. Brandy's story is a perfect example of why. This is milestone number 2 that Kim talked about. It can provide a tax-free death benefit to protect your family, not only from the loss of you, but from the loss of the income they count on. Create as many beneficiary designations as you need to for your family's accounts. Get your own estate planning documents in place and share them with your family. Get help from your financial professional if you're not sure where to start to get this done. So reach out to the person that invited you here tonight and get some instructions in place. Lead by example. Be the example of what you wish others to do as well in your family. Now, for your extended family, such as parents and grandparents, start that difficult, possibly awkward family conversation with your loved ones about this. Many people don't want to talk about death and dying, but we need to talk about it. Focus on why taking these proper steps can protect each other from future time, expense, and emotional pain, and how valuable that focus is. Get help from a financial professional, as I said, and feel free to use my stories as examples of why it's important. And continue these conversations, hopefully annually. Make a family meeting a priority for everyone's benefit, no matter how awkward or difficult it is to start this process. In the end, your loved ones will look back and appreciate that the family made these efforts. So be the courageous one in your family to step into this important process. And with that, I will turn it back over to you, Brandy.
All right. I'm just going to go back because I have this beautiful picture of Julie that I didn't share because I wasn't sharing my screen. That was the beautiful picture that I wanted you guys to see. Julie, thank you so much for sharing that. This is something that I had never thought about for my 24-year-old now, who is a flight attendant. I often think, oh, if something happens to her, which is likely, right? If she goes down in a plane or whatever, she's constantly in different countries. How can I take care of her estate if something were to happen? So many things to think about. This is important conversations to have in women because of the fact that we're caretakers and we love our people and we love them well. We want to make sure that we're doing all those things. So a couple little slides on here. There's always something. We want your feedback. So the green QR code on the right is really a survey. You guys don't have to do it, but it does help us to get better and better. There's questions on there and things that you would like to know. This, of course, today was about protecting the things you love, but there's a lot more questions on there. So hop in there, fill it out, let us know who invited you so we can make sure that they get you out the free ebook that we have. And let's make sure that everyone does the survey on the left. The survey on the left was created, and Kim talked about at the beginning. We showed it at the beginning, and we really want to just make sure that everything that we're doing is meeting what you guys need. We also want to make sure that you invite your wonderful women to learn. I see that there's some men on this call. Thanks, guys, for being here. We are not women against men. We are women and men. And our goal is really for women to have the power and the mindset to take control, to know their finances, not apart from their spouses, not in spite of their spouses, but very much in conjunction with our hearts, to be who we are, to help our families. And the reason there's pay gaps and all kinds of gaps in the way that we make money is because we care so much. So we're going to continue to do these virtual series. They are coming up. When you scan this QR code, you'll be able to sign up for all of them if you'd like. So you can click on every month. It's the fourth Thursday of the month. And the goal is that we are just hopefully getting words out to you and your friends and family to just create some change. Kim, I see you back on here. Did you want to say something else in closing?
Well, I just wanted to thank everyone for being here and thank Brandy and Julie and the amazing women who work behind the scenes to make this possible. We are, as you can see on the screen, going to hold these, every month through October. Next month is special because next month is March. It's Women's History Month. And we will have that event will have the very special Sharon Lechter as our guest speaker. And so you're not going to want to miss hearing Sharon. So please go to the QR code and make sure you register for all of them, but especially for the March event.
All right, and there was a couple questions in the chat that I think were answered, but if you guys have anything, we have a little bit extra time, which is not like women to end early. But if you guys do have some questions, anything that Kim went over, throw it in the chat, and if we don't get it answered this time, we'll at least get an email back out to you if you put that in when you signed up. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you for being women and representing us well. And please, please, please invite 10 of your friends. See how expensive this was? It was free. A little bit of time. We can't even see your face if you're shoving food in your mouth right now. We don't mind. So join us as you are, and you guys have an amazing night. We're so grateful you're here.
Thank you all.